So today we are on to part 2 of our diary writing from Ethan's point of view in chapter 7. So how does Ethan feel about Stella and Beanie? Keep that as a thought and think back to yesterday's when we looked at the emotions that we picked out from chapter 7 as well. Okay, so if we look back at the timeline, and today we are focusing on this event here and this one. So when Beanie is being introduced to Ethan, and Ethan laughs at Beanie and is rather mean towards him, and when Stella defends Beanie and dumps a snow penguin on the top of Ethan's head. So we're going to build quite a lot of tension in this part of the diary today. Okay, so remember, just focusing on these two as we covered those two yesterday. So we're just looking at these ones for today. So I've popped these back on just as a reminder. "I've got some jelly beans somewhere," Beanie said, fumbling in his pockets of his grubby cloak. "Mum gave me them before I went." He drew out a handful and held them out to Ethan. "Would you like some?" The magician recoiled. "Heavens, no! I don't even know where they've been." Beanie looked puzzled. "Well, they've been in my pocket." Stella was strongly tempted to tell Ethan to go away, but felt she ought to make one last attempt to be nice, whether he wanted her kindness or not. So she took the jelly bean pile from Beanie's cupped hand and said, "We should arrive at the Icelands in another week or so. Are you looking forward to the expedition?" Ethan shrugged. "What's there to discover? The Icelands are just ice. They can't possibly be compared to the secrets of the seas. Still, I suppose it will be dangerous enough. With all the Yetis stomping about, there's a good chance that many of us won't make it back at all. Even if you manage to escape being eaten by a Yeti, many explorers before us have got lost in the snow and starved." Beanie flinched and dropped the remaining jelly beans, which scattered into the snow at his feet. Stella knew he was thinking of his father, lost somewhere on the black ice bridge. "You shouldn't talk about starving at the start of an expedition," he said nervously. "Dad always said it was bad luck." "I don't give two hoots what your father thinks," Ethan replied. "Magicians don't care about silly superstitions like that. Don't you know who you're talking to?" Beanie frowned, even more confused. "Ethan Edward Rook," he said. "The magician? You told us that 4.5 minutes ago. Don't you remember? Perhaps you've got a memory problem. That can't happen sometimes, although usually not until you're very old and you have to take your teeth out and put them in a little glass at the side of your bed at night." He looked at Ethan and said, "Do you have to take your teeth out and put them in the glass by the side of your bed at night? Because I might be able to help with that. I'm training to be a medic, you see." "Good Lord," Ethan said, staring. He turned to Stella. "Is he an absolute freak or just a plain idiot?" Freak, idiot, weirdo, nutcase. Beanie had been called all of these and worse at school, and it never failed to make Stella absolutely blood furious. Beanie was easily the cleverest child in the class, probably the entire school, as well as one of the kindest people Stella knew. He was just different, and people never failed to say cruel things to him because of it. She bent down and picked up the nearest snow penguin. It held well enough as she straightened up and walked towards Ethan. The expression on her face made the magician feel suddenly alarmed, and he tried to step away, but he already pushed up against the side of the boat, the railings digging firmly into his back. "What are you going to do with that?" he demanded. Stella responded by dumping the snow penguin on his head. It broke apart in the most satisfying way, and Ethan yelled as great clumps of ice slid along down the back of his collar and soaked his hair. Stella saw with immense satisfaction that he didn't look anywhere near immaculate, with white snow streaking his black robe and icy water running down his face. So I've included those bits there just as a reminder for you. Okay, so here are my two parts for the two events we are looking at today. What sort of introduction was that? This strange boy walked closer to me, and I felt so confused by his over-the-top crazy clothes. His ears, which were pointy, poked out the side of his ugly hat. I couldn't help but smirk to myself, diary. What an absolute freak! All of a sudden, Smeller Stella got up and approached me with her sarcastic smile. I don't know how she dare approach me in such manner, diary. This is when it all went west. I looked her up and down, and in the blink of an eye she did something to me that she would most definitely regret doing. I was fuming. I could have exploded with rage like a ticking time bomb. This disgusting girl, who claims she's an explorer, had the audacity to dump one of those child play snow penguins. As you can imagine, I plotted my revenge very quickly. So again, we're going to look through which features I remember. Now, I want to just bring you back to last week when we looked at the relative pronoun. So I've got which were pointy as my extra information in that sentence. Okay, so I'm making sure that I am including my relative clause sentences or embedded clauses here as well. This disgusting girl who claims she's an explorer. So if I took out who claims she's an explorer, it would still make sense. It would say this disgusting girl had the audacity to dump one of those child play snow penguins. Okay, so it would still make sense. So please make sure you are remembering to include a relative clause sentence for me. Okay, now we've got the chatty language today as well, which makes it sound like it's coming from our character. So we have got the part where it says she did something to me that she would most definitely regret doing, sort of the manner that Ethan speaks with. Okay, so making sure you are really putting across that character with your chatty language. Okay, again, make sure you are talking about it in the past, so your ed words, not making it in the present tense. Okay, and as I said, you are just writing these two events today. So if we go back to the events, you are just looking at when Beanie tries to introduce himself and Ethan gets rather mean, and then when Stella dumps the snow penguin on Ethan's head. Again, reminder, you are Ethan. You are writing it as if you are Ethan. Okay, so I look forward to seeing your two events that you're going to write about today on Dojo. I really enjoyed reading those ones you sent in yesterday. Keep up the good work for me.